this is Gloria, your life coach. Welcome to another episode of Life's a Shuffle.
Hi, this is Ron Johnson, life coach, leadership coach, motivational speaker, and health coach. And welcome to another episode of Life's the Shuffle. So today, of course, Freestyle Thursday, no topic. Just catching up for the week because it's been a long, stressful, at least for me, almost 2 weeks. As far as those that know, I'm leaving. And when you try to leave, you got a lot of things to go on to move. And trying to still work a full time business means I'm working like 7 days a week now to finish clients' personal training sessions before I'm going. Because I'm gone, I can't do in person training. So fortunately, a few of them are following virtually, so I'll be able to actually train with them still ongoing while I go to Washington. In addition to that, just wrapping up just a week, just trying to get things done. You know what? When you go through stress, which has been the last 3 weeks for me, I don't know about everybody else, but I go to bed about 9:30 at the latest. I wake up at 11:50 p.m. or 11-ish around there every night. Then by default, at 2 p.m., boom, I'm up. Don't know why, don't know what's happening. Alarm doesn't go off till 4 a.m. And I think I said 3 p.m. I meant 3 a.m. Alarm doesn't get off till 4 a.m. So I'm like, oh my goodness, what's going on? And it's just not getting enough sleep. And I can see it's taking a toll on my body, not mentally, but physically. I see a big difference in my body. And that's where it's like become very stressful and frustrating. What about you, Gloria?
Actually, speaking of that, I've been feeling the same way. I don't know how long you've been feeling that. I think for me, it's within the last couple of weeks. I would say the last probably 2 weeks. That has been happening to me. And talking to my friends, the other girls about it, it's been happening to them too, which is pretty weird. I know, like, I don't sleep as around the same time as you, usually a little later. What I do is when I do, it's almost like a quick nap for me. So I actually go to bed, close my eyes, I fall asleep, and then I'm up like within 30 minutes. And then I try to put myself back to sleep. So then I'm sleeping and then I wake up again a couple of hours later and I'm just trying to put myself back to sleep. So that whole time I was trying to sleep maybe at least 6 hours, right? I try to get at least 6 hours of sleep. That within that 6 hours, it's like on and off for me. And it's not a complete 6 hours. And I know there's one night which is really weird. I woke up like at 2 o'clock in the morning, I think. And then I remember trying to put myself back to sleep and it took me almost about an hour just to go back to sleep. All I did was stare at the ceiling and I felt like I was staring at the ceiling counting sheeps. I don't know what was going on in my mind, but I know I was frustrated at myself because I just wanted to sleep, like just go back to sleep, and I couldn't. And then I go back to sleep, then I'm up an hour before my alarm goes off.
Wow, crazy.
Yeah, it's
I
been
wonder,
crazy.
so what's going on with you? Why are you not sleeping?
I don't know. I honestly don't know. I feel like sometimes our body is just kind of weird that way. Um, Maybe there is something going on. I just really can't point my fingers to it yet. Maybe there is a lot of things going on with me. A lot of things in my mind. I just can't point my fingers to it, or it's just the way the body goes. One of my girlfriends actually told me that for her, she's blaming it on the hormones.
That's
So
by default, right?
so it's just, you'd hear it too. It's like, oh, my hormones is acting up again. Here it goes again. I can't sleep. I lack sleep. So I don't know. I was confused for a while because I'm thinking, what if is that? What if my body is going through changes again? Um, or what if I'm just, stress?
Hmm.
And yeah, it's just weird. Our body is just really weird in that way. And I know I've caught myself. I don't know if you felt this way where sometimes during the day you're either walking around or you're trying to work, but you feel like a zombie.
Lack of sleep. That's how I felt on Tuesday. Lack of sleep. I was definitely sleep deprived. That was probably the worst I've had in a very long time. I felt like any instant I just fall on the ground, hit my face. Even being with clients, because with clients you have to give 100%. You can't show up 100% to client at 6 a.m. and get the client at 6 p.m. 50%. It doesn't work that way. So I'm 100% all the time, but I don't like that enthusiasm, energy that I usually have because I was just so exhausted. And working these 7 days a week, I think for me it becomes first is I hate to say no, right? Meaning that I want to get client sessions done before I leave. And I hate not to say no, so I try. But back in mind, it's like, oh, I shouldn't do that, but I do it anyways, just because you're trying to please people. And that's what all of us usually do is that knowing we should always say no or set a boundary. So it's kind of ironic. So when Tuesday I was going through this stuff, it's funny how the way the universe works. Remember Michelle, right? So she was a special guest and she's also for a podcast. She posted about setting boundaries.
Mhm.
And I said, dang, you know what? Going forward, I'm going to start setting boundaries. Just say no. I can't do it.
Mhm.
And that right there, actually, by her talking about that and her post, I was like, you know what? That's what the issue is. That's why I get frustrated because I say yes, not setting a boundary, and say no, I cannot do that. Because the fear is if I say no, I'll disappoint people or disappoint my clients. And I don't want to do that because this is a business and it's a reflection of myself. But inherently, if I don't show up 100%, they're not getting a full Ron Johnson. So that tells me right then and there that I need to set some boundaries. This is the time I work, this time I don't work, and we will try to do the best we can, but you set a boundary instead of overworking yourself.
Mhm.
Because if you overwork yourself, you become more frustrated about overworking yourself because you don't want to do, because I do need some time myself. And as I'm getting ready to leave, you got to pack a condo and pack everything up, it's like a lot of stuff. Not a lot of stuff, but you got a lot of moving parts. I'm still working full time, so this is it get tired of just trying to just work. I don't want to be a workaholic. And at the same time, I'm trying to start my life coaching business. And I think I told you about this. I'm launching virtual seminars. Now, with COVID and shelter in place, a lot of people working remotely. Big gatherings are still kind of banned right now. So I'm doing virtual seminars. So, for those that want to feel better and be better and that are lacking, are stuck where they are, who they are in life, I can be able to do a virtual seminar. So, as I really want to get life coaching, mentor coaching going, personal training is great, that I need to set some boundaries so I can work on my business. So that's the point for you guys out there. If you're trying to do something and it becomes very frustrated because you can't do it, just like what's happening to me right now, I have to go back and reevaluate what's happening. Okay. Because I'm only one person. I can only work a certain amount of days a week. I can only do a certain amount of hours a day. I can only work on everything else. If you're trying to get a business or get something started, you got to look at how much time you're spending on it. So I looked at this. I reviewed my time. I'm not really spending much time on my mentor business. So how do I expect that to grow? It's not going to grow. I'm not working on it. It's like no difference than I talked about this in one podcast, The Law of the Farmer, right?
Mhm.
And reaping the harvest. So the thing is about a farmer, he has to do a process. He knows that, let's say, I'll give you an example. I'm not a farmer, but January I got to plant the pumpkin seeds because in October I want to make sure they're ready to go, right? So he plants the pumpkin seeds in January, tills it, waters it, gives it the fertilizer and soil and all that stuff. So in October you can have it. So the point is, if you don't try to work on your farm to harvest the right crop, it will not be ready. So the farmer waits until, I'm going to wait until February, April, May. I'll plant my pumpkin seeds. It may not be ready by October as the deadline is. So you got to work in your step in order to have what you want. Probably a mouthful there, but the point is you got to make time for things you want. If you don't make time for things you want, you will never receive it or never get it.
That's true. And I do like that about setting boundaries because I, for one, um, I think, we've heard of that saying, listen to your body, right? So when you start feeling something and you know what to do. Uh, I'm one of those people sometimes that doesn't listen to my body. I'm stubborn like that. Um, because I always tell myself, well, I like what I'm doing. But, at the end of the day, I start to feel it when I'm home and I'm relaxed. Oh my God. As soon as I sit down, I just feel it in my body. My body's just like, I, I'm I'm done. And I
Mhm.
think this last few weeks, the only thing that keeps me going and what's helping me is coffee, caffeine. I mean, I'm gonna say it's an addiction, yes, because now my body's looking for it when I start to feel down or I start to feel something like, oh, I need coffee, I need my drink, because I can't function without my drink. So I get the high and then I go down.
So it proves there's a placebo effect. First, maybe first 10 to 15 times of doing it, it's okay. But as time moves along, that placebo's wearing off. So you need more and more coffee.
Right, exactly. But I'm not like a big coffee drinker anyways, like a cup, let's say like the ones from Starbucks. If I get grande, that size is that's like medium, right? That can last me all day. I just sip it throughout the day. So it's not like I'm having like several cups a day.
Interesting.
So my body like has, the coffee has that kind of effect on my body, but I like the strong ones. So I have not really had it just lately. I've just tried the double shot. Oh boy, that really like it has that kick. But then it also you feel like a crash later on. And I've also realized like you that I have so many things. I feel like I'm juggling everywhere, left and right. So setting boundaries when you were speaking about that, I did last week was I what I did one time is I sat down and I looked at my, what's going on with me? Why am I feeling this way? Which one do I really want to focus on more first? Because I feel like I want to do everything all at once, and then I start to juggle. So which one is more important for me? And that's when I actually took that, I took a little step back on that. And now it's just, taking things one at a time and then and finding the time for it. So that way I'm not like I'm juggling all over the place or I'm trying to make time for, there's let's say the life coaching stuff. I have to try to make time for that too because right now I'm swamped with school.
Hmm.
I'm swamped with school and then with volleyball. So I had to make some choices, which was just last week. I had to cut down on volleyball to focus more on, my actual job, which is a school. And then at the same time, I need to focus on life coaching too. And then there are things that I'm working on, and I do have a project that I'm working on that obviously I want it done. And how am I going to get that done if I'm not doing anything? And I'm just
Right.
staring at it and it's all in my head and all in my thoughts, right?
It'll never go anywhere.
Right, exactly.
And that's the
So,
fundamental thing I have done for so many years is not really getting out there and setting my boundaries, saying yes, yes, yes. And what's kind of, I guess, the great benefit that I have is that I've started two businesses. For those that don't know that, so help personal training is one of them, and second one is life coaching. But what I've noticed is that if I repeat the same behaviors I did in my first business, my second business will have the same result, right? So I'm able to use my first business as a springboard to say, okay, this is what I'm going to accept, and this is what I'm not going to accept for my second company. That makes a big difference there.
yeah, so you have experience, you kind of have the expectations, right? You have an idea of what to do and how to run it. Whereas there's people like us who's just starting, and this is totally different from what I was doing again before. You know what I mean? It's it's hard when you, I think, and I did talk about this with our other co-coach, Amy, that when you have a full-time job and you're trying to start something that you feel like you're more in a line with, it's hard, but you have to make a choice. You have to make some choices. You have your full-time job, yes, because you feel like, do you need it? You're making money. Whereas the other one, you're starting it, but are you unsure if you're going to be able to do it or not? Are you going to make it happen or not? And you're not making any money off of it right now. It's
The true thing
choices.
is that you have to give up something to get something in return. I mean, so if I'm sitting there trying to, let's say, start a business, but if you don't put in the time starting a business, it won't work. Period. That's what most of us don't understand. You got to put in the work. Yeah, it's gonna cost some money. Yeah, it's gonna cost some time, but look at this. You're doing this for long term, not short term. So if you're going to
Mhm.
short term, of course this is going to come up, and of course you're not making any money off it. Of course that's all going to happen. But the work really is in the process. The evolution change really is learning how to do it and the work you put into it because it will benefit. It may not be instantly right now, but it will happen. You got to put the work in.
And that's anything in life. You have to put work into a lot of things in life to live life. And sometimes I always say, recently I think I've said this, where you have to sacrifice one thing to have the other. I've told I've told that to a friend recently who um is in a situation and eventually would have to make a big, or a decision. And she's stuck. And when that just came out, and she understood that, but it's going to be a process for her to make whatever decisions she needs to make. But understand that you're going to have to make a sacrifice, and you sacrifice one thing to have the other, because obviously, like in her situation, she can't have both.
I want both though. I'm greedy.
Yeah, I heard that too. She said the same thing. You can have both, and you can make both work, but when it starts catching up to you, then that's a decision you make. That, do you want to keep both, or do you want to let go of one and keep one?
That's the caveat there. How much people can actually give up one for another? Like if I knew right now, let's say, I give my personal example that if I put, let's say, 50% more in life coaching business, like,
Mhm.
right, and 50% personal training, right? Obviously, I'm going to lose some money because I put less work in personal training. But if I knew I was going to get, let's say, for instance, you knew you were going to get so much out of it, would you put into work? Like
Yes.
if you knew, if I knew right now, if I put in 50% more time into my life coaching business and I would make $1 million, do you think I would do that?
Yeah, why not?
Right. So if we go back to your friend's example, they're just really in a comfort zone. They're unwilling to make a change or effort to something that will obviously feel uncomfortable because when you transition, do something new, no difference than when you start a new job or you get into a relationship, some things may feel uncomfortable in the very beginning, but you don't quit that job until you pass the 90-day probation. You go in there and say, okay, I have 90 days, 6 months. I'm gonna put my effort in 100%. And if I, become full time or I get the benefits or whatever the case may be, that's what you do. And that's what getting out of your comfort zone. That's what happens. It feels uneasy, feels brand new. You just don't know what to do, how to navigate it. But we all have a very good, keen sense of how to navigate everything. But we're unwilling to take that first step. That makes a difference. That first step to do something new makes the difference.
Mhm. It does. And sometimes too, this came up on another conversation with my another girlfriend about, taking that first step, since you brought it up. Taking that first step to, maybe for her, would be the next chapter or something that would be better for her, but she's having a hard time taking that first step. And we know that when you're having a hard time, you're not ready. Your mind is telling you you need to, and you should take that step forward, but you're not quite ready. You're not quite there yet. And we got into the conversation about accepting reality, and we just went back and forth about reality. And we got to the end by saying that reality to her, what reality to her might be different from my own reality. So whatever that reality for her is, that's hers. And I may not understand what that reality is for her. Just like how what my reality is for me. And she may not understand that also. So it was, and I'm telling you, this conversation, we could not meet in the middle at all. We were like in two separate worlds.
You know
Um,
why?
why?
You try and make her see something she cannot see.
Yeah, you know what? You're right about that. You are so right. And I think maybe because I see something,
Hmm.
right? And I see something there that I feel like, no, no, it's not that. This is how I see it, and this is I'm not telling her that this is how it should be or this is what she should do, because at the end of the day, the decision is hers. But I see something different outside of whatever that reality is for her. And I just know that, and she did admit to this, that she's not ready. And she said, "Yeah, you're right. I am not ready."
Okay. So then always the question is, when do you think you will be ready?
She doesn't know.
Right. So if you don't know, then how we know you will be ready and when that time will come?
She feels like she has it set, like at a certain age, she'll be ready by that time. And I don't know, because sometimes when you this is just for me, my personal opinion, when you set something like that, um, when you feel like at a certain age you're going to be doing something and you're going to be out of whatever situation you're in, it's kind of hard to set that. I feel like if it happens, it's just going to happen, because what if that time comes and you're still in that same situation?
The first thing in that conversation with your friend is you're trying to see you see something they're unwilling or do not see. And that right there causes suffering for both parties, not just for you. Because you're trying to have someone see the potential they cannot see. Until they're willing to see potential or willing to know they can, they will. And that's why for you got very frustrated. It's going round and round in circles because they don't see it. And then obviously now at the time, oh, I gotta set time. I know what I'm doing. Okay, if you knew what you're doing, you would already be there.
Hmm.
Obviously you don't because you're not there. Well, but you know what, Gloria, I know that I know this day and time. How do you know? How can you predict every second of the day? If the time is, let's say, 10 years from now, how do you know what's going to happen every second of the day 10 years from now? Do you know that? They'd be like, probably no. They'd probably say, no, I don't know that. Okay. So if you can't predict every second, every minute, every day, 10 years from now, whichever number that equates to, probably millions of times and hours, whatever. Okay. So if you can't see it, then what can you see in this moment? They probably say, well, I just don't know. Because when you challenge them, the inheritance or sorry, the default is to protect themselves because they're not ready to accept what is or what is not. And they're unfulfilled and probably fearful and scared because it's like, man, I keep doing this to myself. So the best thing to do is just avoid the conversation or avoid those challenging questions because they're just not ready for that.
Nope. Not at all.
That's up for you guys out there listening that, we always trying to tell people what to do. Okay. And that's doesn't work for anybody. So if you are in a situation where you have a friend, family member, loved one, whatever, and they just don't see their potential, the worst thing you can do is force them to see your potential. Right? You should be seeing things this way. This is the way to do it. Well, there is no way to do anything in this world. And it has been proven throughout history, throughout everything in the world. There's no way. I mean, antibiotics is found just by accident. Okay. So if that was found by accident, countless things are just found by accident, right? So for you out there that you're in a situation where you're struggling for someone to feel better, especially I use the easy one for me is you have a friend that's in a relationship that's horrible for them or a marriage, whatever, and they keep saying I'm going to leave this situation, I'm going to do something about it, and you're getting very frustrated because probably you're sick and tired of hearing it. That's first. The thing is to make it less suffering is a step you're or detach yourself from them. Like detached, like don't stop being their friend, but detached, wanting them to have a better outcome. Okay, I like giving an example. I'll give you one. So when I was married, my ex, she was in a very abusive relationship. Okay, I mean abusive, verbal and mental. And she had 4 kids by this guy and couldn't leave. I would never understand why. I don't understand how. I just know she couldn't leave. And I would always ask her, I said, well, he v- verbally abuses you and mentally abuses you. How come your family doesn't help? Because usually family members come, they rally together to help somebody else out. No difference than a drug addict. They help them out, rally again, make sure he goes to get rehab. But even though it's not a drug situation or a person that's addicted to drugs, this is still obviously a drug because you can't let go. So in the situation, I said, look, you know what? I made the mistake. She was with the guy. We started dating. I fell in love with her. I wanted her so bad. So I promised her the promised land, whatever that is at that time. And I want her to see what I saw. I want her to see, hey, guess what? If we move from San Diego, San Marcos to San Jose, we're gonna have a better life. This. I outlined the fact that he won't be there to bother her. She's gonna find a job. We'll work together. We'll love each other. All these wonderful things. That's what really happened. She didn't see that. And I, being 20 years old, was naive to know that they can't see what I see because I can only see what I can see, what I believe. So she's going back to him because that's what she knows. Now, maybe it was, I'm going to take the kids away from you. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. No one can take anything away from you. You will not allow them to take away from you. Okay. So if you're worried about, well, what about my kids? No one can take the kids away from because remember the love you give your kids, no one can ever take that away. Well, it's going to be hard and a struggle financially. Let's say you're in that situation where you are supported by your husband or your wife. Great. But what's worth your freedom? I mean, how much is your freedom worth? I'll never forget the movie I saw, Braveheart. And in the very end, he says, give me freedom or give me death. There's no value on freedom. The value is knowing you, the person, have more value than you know. So you got to credit yourself back for what you have as value. So back to the person that doesn't see what they see. So if you're the friend that doesn't see what the other person's seeing, step back. Ask those empowering questions. From knowing they detach yourself from wanting them to have better for themselves. Because some people just don't want better for themselves. They like their situation. Or I know what he takes care of the kids, or she's a good wife, or whatever the case may be. Yeah, step back. Detachment for the outcome. Detachment from the outcome is what I'm trying to say.
Hmm. And that's what I worked on actually last week, detachment from the outcome. Remember when I told you that I did that deep
Hmm.
meditation?
Yeah, detachment from the outcome. Life is forever transitory. And I've said this so many times in podcasts. It's just not determined.
And life's
But
a
what's
shuffle.
determined? Yeah, just like that. Like the only thing that's determined is what I do the next step. But after this podcast, what I'm going to do, that's determined. But life is not determined. Things change all the time. And that brings me to that. You read that book. I saw your post today about a certainty. So you must have read that book.
Yes, I love that book.
Because
it's
yep, I did too, and I picked it up.
it's
What's for certain is life is uncertain. So embrace the moment.
it just well, you know what? Reading something like that, even if we know already, it's just sometimes it's a good reminder, or it just makes better sense for us. Like we know life is full of surprises. We know that some things are just uncertain, right? And there's things that is just out of our control, and things like for me, I know I'm guilty with this. Sometimes I have expectations. And when my expectations are not met, I feel a certain way, right? And then there's sometimes some things that we want to happen doesn't happen. And there are things that happens unexpectedly.
Hmm.
So that's just what life is about. It's uncertain and full of surprises. That's how I'd like to see it now. And I think, that as I get older, as I age, not that I'm feeling like such an old lady, but they say the older you get, the wiser you get. A lot of things are just making a lot more sense to me.
No, the contrary to that, I would say the older I get, the more I know how to release myself from attachments.
And that too. I think we talked about this too one time, and I was talking about this with one of my best friends too, is that where was all this stuff when we were younger, right? Cuz like our parents didn't we didn't learn any a lot of this from our parents. We didn't learn a lot of this from school.
You know what? I would say we live in a great time where abundance of everything, technology, abundance of information is at our fingertips. I mean, the only time you ever got information was what you read in the newspaper, what you saw on the news, what your parents told you, what your friends told you, and what you got at the library. That was it. That's all the way you got information. Okay, now you got the Kindle. I can download, I can listen to Audible, I can research something, I can listen to the news, I can go on social media. Anything I want, I can research it. And that's, what we have at our fingertips. Our parents didn't have that. So their scope or what they knew was extremely limited. They didn't have access to no internet. It was what environment they lived in, who they hung around with, and what they were able to find. And if you went to school that wasn't the best school or wasn't the best neighborhood, your information is limited because you're not exposed to more. So being exposed for my parents maybe was limited, so they didn't know about all this stuff.
Mhm.
Plus, at least for me, as you guys know, I have a group of Joe's Witness. This stuff, conscious work, is not something that's ever discussed or aware of. It just doesn't happen that way. Why? I'm not for sure. But you know, I believe in prayer, and the thought process being anything is read the Bible and pray. But you read the Bible and pray, you still have to do the work. That's I can pray, but God will say do some work too.
It's not you can pray for something, you can pray for it, but you can't sit there and wait for your prayers to be answered.
Not just that, we're expecting. I pray for this. It's going to show up my doorstep in a
Yeah.
nice red bow or something. No, you still got to put in the work to get what you want. And yes, God will help you. Yes, God is in us and around us at the same time. He's in us right now and around us. But we have to put in the work. God's not going to work. Hey, you know what? You can sit there and sit there and just ask for things to happen. That doesn't happen in life. And that's why I say another thing. Those who are out there that are very religious, forgive me, but you know, there's religion and spirituality are two different things. And I wish they talked about the difference in there rather than just say this is the way, because there is a lot of different ways out there in life, and neither one can be proven right or wrong. It's the spirituality is the only thing that obviously is universal. But back to where I grew up in this, I didn't understand the conscious work. I didn't understand self-esteem. I didn't understand self-confidence. I didn't understand how to what does a want. If I want something, what is it telling me? Most people say if you want something, it's act of the devil. What the hell does that mean? Doesn't mean anything. Doesn't help me. Okay, so what you need to do is ask, why do I want this? How would it help me? Will it help other people around me? And that's what they just don't talk about. And that's why I said it didn't play part in my parents, because they definitely very religious. They believe in God, Jesus Christ, and so do I. But they didn't have this conscious work available for them. It just wasn't there.
Yeah, and everyone has different beliefs. So our parents grew up in a different time, different era, like what you said, they didn't have all this and and what just came up to me right now is speaking of how they grew up differently from us and they have different beliefs is like, do you remember, okay, so yesterday the sky was different, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was orange all over the Bay Area, and the sun never even came out, and if it did, it was like bloody orange. And it was funny, so I was, texting with my friends because I had a little bit of a, I don't know what I would say. This is not it's not an incident, but something kind of happened to me a little bit where I felt like I needed to knock myself in the head to wake me up. So I was at school. I was in the building for the first half of the day. I know when I went to work that morning, it was already weird. It was, everything was just orange, right? Go into the building, and around lunchtime I was coming out to get something in my car. And I looked and I said, "Oh my god, nobody's here." It was so empty, and it's gloomy outside. It's dark. Um I still don't see the sun. The sky looks orange, and it just looks really weird. So I looked around and the whole building looks really empty. So I'm thinking, well, okay, everyone probably left for lunch. I felt like nobody was there but me. And then I went outside and there's nobody around. There's no cars coming by. It's just streets just look really empty. And then I see a man across the street walking, long white hair, and he's walking like you can tell when he's I don't mean to make fun of anybody at all, but I could tell he's disabled, right? But it's just the way he was walking. The first thing I thought of is, that the show, The Fear of the Walking Dead.
Yes.
So I stood in the middle. I was like, what the heck is happening? And that's all I could think of. I swear, and I kid you not, for a second, I felt like I was out somewhere. I was out in a different world. And I just like I had to close my eyes and open my eyes and kind of bring myself back to reality because I kind of freaked out for a little bit. I was scared. I was like, what is going on here? And then that's what I thought of, was the fear of the Walking Dead. And I remember texting this to my friends, and one of my best friends says, well, her parents says they feel like it's the second coming. And then and then we talked to another one, and then, I remember telling my mom about it. I told my mom the story, and she was laughing at me. She said, "Yeah, I was kinda scared for a little bit." I was like, "What's going on?" She said she didn't wanna step outside, and then she talked to her friend, and her friend said, "I felt like Jesus is mad at us, and this is what's happening." So, eh, we just it was just funny because I did have this conversation with my mom, and she said, "Well, you know how we are. Old folks, we have different beliefs, and we believe in a lot of stuff like that and superstitious. So she said she had to even bring herself back into reality also.
Interesting. Isn't that very interesting?
Yeah, but I was laughing at myself the whole day because I can't believe what happened to me. I can't believe I even thought of that. And then poor old man was just walking on the other side of the street, like minding his own business. And that's the first thing I thought of.
Man.
It's just,
That's pretty funny.
it was. But maybe that's just too much coffee also for me. I don't know.
That too.
Yeah.
I thought I was going to hear those, those old school movies in the 50s, that nuclear buzzer, like the tornadoes
Oh,
coming. I
yeah.
thought any minute that was going to happen.
That's right.
Like
Just
the
someone.
atomic bomb's about to go off or something.
Yeah, and it really felt like that, and it wasn't even that cold either. I felt like it was windy, but yet humid, and, I remember I was in the hallway, I was about to use the bathroom, and somebody said, "Apocalypse," and I just wanted to laugh. I mean, I like how people are just kinda just laughing at the situation, and because we've already had gone through so much this year. And
Hmm.
I love to see how people can just laugh about it and just laugh at the situation instead of taking it in and then just kind of having and letting that affect them like mentally.
Hmm. Isn't that ironic?
Yeah, so that's pretty much it. But that was my funny story yesterday. I just still um even right now I'm thinking about it. I can't believe that happened to me. Like it was just so weird.
That's pretty funny, actually. So that's
Yeah.
that's that's different.
Mhm.
All right, guys,
Okay.
it's Freestyle Thursday. Thanks for listening to another episode of Life's the Shuffle. I hope we learned something new. Obviously, for Gloria and I, this is a good way for us to catch up on the week because weeks can go by so fast, and so many things can happen all at once. So thank you for becoming a downloader or downloading different versions or variations of the podcast. We appreciate you guys' help. And thank you for listening to another episode of Life's a Shuffle. This is Ron Johnson, life coach, leadership coach, motivational speaker, and health coach.
Yes. Again, thank you for supporting us and downloading and listening to us. We're happy to hear from a lot of you that you are enjoying listening to our podcast and our stories and our Freestyle Thursdays, of course. Again, thank you for all your support. And this is Gloria, your life coach.